My name is Jerry Basham. I'll be talking about the Chapter 3 in Friedman. I represent the blue team that consists of myself, Ethan Cummings, and Jeff Clouders. Basically, Chapter 3 is about ignoring our history. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the Constitution, the formula for prosperity, the formula builders, and then a conclusion. The Constitution, the author considers that a framework that's been very successful for nearly 225 years. And he says it was necessary to have this framework, that you can't take away from the contributions the Constitution's made, but it's not sufficient to, nor was it felt sufficient by the founders to secure the future of the country that had founded it. That we have really, over the past 225 years, relied on something else that the author calls the American formula for prosperity, and that it's built on 5 different pillars. And these pillars are, the first one is providing public education. The author feels like that by providing public education that we prepared people to exploit any invention or any technology that came along. That the more people you can educate, the better this exploitation and innovation could be. He also believes that this is funded by the government. And also believes that the government is responsible for the modernization of the infrastructure. He believes that, that there has to be a public-private partnership. And by having this partnership, where there's a give and take between the public sector and the private sector, then we can allow firms to talk more closely together and collaborate. We also can allow workers and companies to be able to get their product or services to the market more quickly and more cheaply. And all this is built to provide a catalyst for our economy. Immigration, and I know there's a lot of debate about immigration, but throughout the years, immigration has been part of the human resource necessary to build us into the world's largest economy that we have become. Also believes in basic research and development that's funded by the government that can help provide innovation and help to get us to the place where new ideals are coming forth. But there has to be necessary regulations. You have to have guidelines to follow. And without the regulations, that there's no telling what you can get. Then he talked a little bit about the past. You know, he did title the chapter "Ignoring the Past," about people that he felt that could lend credence to what his American prosperity formula really did. And one of the first ones he brought up was Alexander Hamilton. Now, Alexander Hamilton was our first Secretary of Treasury. He believed in a strong, active, but limited government. And he's really what the author considered the father of America's the public and private partnership. Through him, he established banks. He helped set up the regulations for that. He also encouraged manufacturing. Thomas Jefferson, he was a big proponent of public education. Before he died, he asked that these 3 things be engraved in his tombstone. 1, that he wrote the Declaration of Independence. 2, that he authored the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. But the one thing he considered very great accomplishment for himself was that he was the father of the University of Virginia. And he was a big proponent of public education. Abraham Lincoln, even though it was during the Civil War, he helped pass laws that got us from an agrarian society to an industrial society. The Homestead Act of 1862 opened up the West for settlers. The Pacific Railroad Acts of 1862 and 1864 actually joined the East Coast and the West Coast and truly set the basis for a national economy. The Morrill Act of 1862 was established a system of land-grant colleges to promote higher education. And then he created the National Academy of Sciences, which brought the best researchers of that day together so that they could research anything in science or art and anything that would bring about a better economy and country. And then all this was during, if you'll notice these dates, was during one of the greatest turmoils of our national history. It was during the Civil War. Theodore Roosevelt, he also considered one of these formula builders because he took on monopolies. He did it through market regulations, and even though the companies that he fought against and with these rules and regulations, in the end, most of the people who held stocks really benefited because it freed up the competition, which is necessary in a free economy. Also, his regulations brought about public awareness for health and safety, and in immigration, in his last year of office, his last full year of office, 1907, about 1.2 million people immigrated into the United States of America, which provided the human resources to fund the economy of that day, to work in the mines, to work in the factories. Franklin Roosevelt was considered a formula builder because of the New Deal. He built bridges, levees, libraries, auditoriums, roads. He also passed the Securities Act of 1933, which stabilized the financial market and, according to the author, quite possibly saved the free market in the United States of America. The Social Security and unemployment insurance, he set those up, which gave us a safety net that would allow us to have failure if we needed. And then the brainwave, that was the result of elite scientists and artists and musicians and that were fleeing Europe during the Nazi reign, and he made way for them to come here to the United States of America. Harry Truman, unlike the end of World War I, where a lot of veterans just got just a little bit of a stipend to survive on, he passed the GI Bill. In the GI Bill, before it ended in 1956, 7.8 million of the 16 million World War II veterans were educated. And then he also founded the National Science Foundation, which also furthered government funding of research projects. Dwight Eisenhower also partnership with science. His partnership with science led to the National Defense Education Act, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and all of these helped to fund what we know as our space program. Also, Dwight Eisenhower was so impressed with Germany's Autobahn that it's because of him that we have our interstate highway system today. And again, he was a big proponent of immigration, not only just because it was importing brain power, but he also thought it was the humanitarian thing to do. Lyndon Johnson, he did the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allowed a huge influx of brain power, the author calls it, from India. Now, the author believes that it's because of this private and public partnership, this five-pillar American prosperity plan, that it gives us a safety net to fail and succeed. He also points out in this chapter that in the European countries, that bankruptcy is almost a sign of death. But in the United States of America, because we have laws and regulations that regulate bankruptcies, there's been many people who went bankrupt, and then they came back from that bankruptcy and founded many, many companies. Now, in the chapter, he mentioned innovation 4 times, globalization and the IT revolution only once each. And he believes because of the public-private partnership that this actually fosters innovation, that it gives people the opportunity to come up with ideas. He says that our country, because of our patent laws, that people want to come here and set up patents to keep people from stealing their intellectual property. It also creates a safety net for more risk-taking. Because if you do come up with an innovation, you do come up with something, then somebody just can't come steal it and run away with it. But he says we need to get back to that formula to succeed. That we have to come to a balance of power between the private and the public sector. That without that private-public sector partnership, that if you've got too many regulations, then it chokes the economy. If you don't have enough regulations, then it steals from the economy. So he thinks that we need to get back to that 5-pillar formula of prosperity. What do you think?